Mikie Mahtook. Got the boys in. I got Lloyd. We got J. Mitch. We got Jackie Boyd.
He tried to jump up, and he might have knocked it in.
Good timing. Let's go. What a start to the Monday. I mean, I'm from Lafayette. My boys will come in and say,
oh, God. So me and Joe on the ground. I got Joe in the headlock. And he's sitting there. He's punching me in the stomach. Like, punching me.
Here, there's everyone sitting around. Who here thinks Chico can practice today after having 5 full beers? And he goes, Chad Jones, right? Chad's doing the team 6 minutes. For 7 minutes, right? Chad's like, no, man, I don't think Chico can practice today. And I was like, I look back and I'm like, Jesus Christ. I saw you there. You're more fucked up than me.
On the spirit plane had some issues, I think. She was sleep farting.
You heard her or you just thought it was her?
I sat right next to her. I smelled.
Whoa. What was that?
Good show.
Now, when you do go to spring training, are you going to bring your chinchilla and your turtle? My dad tell you about it?
The SEC is, God, they hate fat people. I mean, I get crushed for that. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man.
Hey, just the South, bro. You got a bunch of food down here. Like they should
Players, look at Lloyd.
You know what, Lloyd?
You're looking for a recruiting coordinator, coach. I'm here.
He's like, I'll piss my pants right now.
No way.
We're wearing gray pants, long gray pants. He goes, I'll piss my pants right now.
Hello. Welcome back to Mik'd Up. Today is Wednesday, November 6th. Hope everybody is having a wonderful day. If you were woke up and you were upset, I'm sorry. If you woke up and you were happy, I'm happy for you.
Sorry too. I guess.
I think we all
Live your life.
I think we all win. Now that we don't have to watch any more of the political commercials or ads or any of those things that are in our face. Long night for a lot of people. Great night for a lot of people. At the end of the day, just happy that we're moving past
I didn't know you were this caught up in the CFP playoff. It's just the first one.
I know. It's
Results aren't
some
final.
people feel like they got screwed in that deal.
They do.
Some people feel like they got screwed in that deal.
Swing states.
Swing states. Right in the middle of America, too.
Rust Belt.
You know? Rust Belt, man. They have, that blue wall.
That's
You know,
right.
they got all of the lingo that we heard is, they talked about it in the college football playoff rankings. First rankings come out. LSU comes in at 15. Indiana comes in at 8. Some people think they got kind of screwed. I think they're fine where they were put. Vanderbilt does not make it to first top 25. even though their resume is better than probably a majority of the teams in the back half of that top 25. So, lot of conversation, a lot of avenues to get to the 12-team playoff. Obviously, LSU is right there in the mix at 15. Last year, they would not be in the mix because there's only 4 teams. Now there's 12 teams. They're right there. Obviously, they play Alabama this weekend. Huge game, elimination game, I would say, as far as the playoffs go. Alabama is 14th. LSU is 15th, right, in the college football playoffs?
They're
No.
11.
Alabama's 11th. A&M is 14.
Yeah.
So Alabama's 11. LSU is 15 in the college football playoff rankings. They play this weekend here in Baton Rouge, which is very exciting. Everybody was worried about Hurricane. Everybody was worried about the Hurricane. Hurricane Raphael in the Gulf, about to be in the Gulf. I said, everybody just be positive, put out some nice positive energy out there in the universe, and it's not going to hit us. It's not going to hit us. Keep that positive energy out there. It's going right through Cuba. Looks like it's going to stay a little left, maybe go towards Mexico. So keep the positive energy out there so we have a perfect weekend.
Let's be honest.
And don't have to worry about any weather.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It never rains in Tiger
It never
Stadium.
rains in Tiger Stadium.
Let's
Let's
be
hope it stays that way.
Let's go. You know what time it is this
College
weekend.
game days this weekend. Gonna be fire. It's gonna be a lot of energy. Obviously, it'll be Pat McAfee's first time on campus, right?
That's
So I
true.
think that's gonna be energetic. You know, he likes to immerse himself in the culture and in the traditions of the colleges. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he immerses himself in what he feels like, what he feels LSU is like, because I'm sure he's talking to Scott Van Pelt and Reese Davis and Kirk Herbstreit and all these guys. And hey, listen, wait till you get to LSU and wait till you watch a night game at LSU. I'm looking forward to that. Anytime Baton Rouge and Tiger Stadium can put themselves on display, it is always a good time. I'm hoping that they have some sort of like light show or something. Obviously, not the same type of light show with the bands. I don't know if they announced if they're having that or not. Have they?
What do you mean?
The light show in Tiger Stadium like they had for Ole Miss?
Lloyd was not.
Oh, the band.
Lloyd was not physically. He was not there mentally.
Yeah,
no,
I was-
he don't
I
remember
thought he
the
was-
You're
band.
looking at me with an empty look, and I was like, I don't think I do misspeak a lot, which I just did. I did not misspeak there.
No, it's just it's a word that means 2 things.
No, he
Band, and then bands.
And bands.
That's not what he meant.
And bands.
That's not what
Yeah,
Lloyd
and
meant.
band.
He just
Three.
don't
What a
remember.
word.
Yeah, look at that. What a word.
Word of the day.
Yeah, word of the day. Bands.
Bands.
The light bands.
Mhm.
They haven't announced anything like that. I would imagine that we ruined that opportunity because of throwing it on the field. But with the
cares?
new LED lights, you have the ability to make these, different types of light shows, which I would imagine they're going to do. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be electric. Lloyd's got family in town. Jay's got friends in town. I've got family in town. It is going to be fun, and we're looking forward to it. So as we go through the course of this show, we're going to talk about things that we want to see, matchups that are going to be interesting to us as the weekend goes on. Alabama is obviously fighting for their playoff lives, and Kalen DeBoer is trying to prove that he is worthy to fill the shoes of Nick Saban and at least not miss the playoffs in his first season as a head coach. It's Wednesday, so it's Ask Mikey and Mitch. Throw your questions in the chat. We have not had any questions on Twitter, but it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
That's
We
what
got
the chat's
time.
for.
We got time. Throw it in the chat. Ask us some questions. Have a conversation with us. We're going to get to that right before the 7 o'clock hour because in the 7 o'clock hour, we have a friend of ours, Fletcher Mackel, is going to come on the show at 7, talk all things Saints. Who's the front runner for the new head coaching position in New Orleans? What is Darren Rizzi saying? All of the interviews that Darren Rizzi has been giving have sounded great. A lot of culture talk. Saints were known to have one of the better cultures and one of the better locker rooms in all of football for a really long time. Sean Payton leaves. Feels like that culture was kind of starting to slip away, and it would have slipped completely away had they not had the veteran leadership they had in the locker room. I feel like they've kind of kept that together as best they can. Darren Rizzi feels like he's going to bring this thing back. They were still doing some stuff in the locker room that they were doing in COVID, which means they were spreading guys out and they were not next to each other. That's not real conducive to building a good close-knit team. Darren Rizzi's done away with that, putting everybody back around the position groups and the people that they need to be around. So we shall see. If you're a betting man, I would bet on the Saints this weekend because of the couple factors. One, they're playing the Falcons. They obviously hate the Falcons. And two, the interim coach thing, right? First game interim coach, first game backup quarterback. Always feel like that team kind of elevates themselves to that next level. So look for the Saints to snap their 7-game losing streak this weekend.
If Andy Dalton can get the Panthers to win, you would think
Right.
Rizzi can get the Saints to will themselves to a victory.
No doubt. They're going to have close to a full roster. Not obviously Olave's still out. They're going to take his time. He may not be a player the rest of the season. Who knows what's going on with that. You're not going to have Ruiz is still out. But for the most part, you're going to have a lot of the guys. Obviously, Marshawn Lattimore is not going to be there. He got traded, so he is no longer there. But you're going to have, more guys starting to come back and be around this team. So we'll see what happens this weekend. It's also the first game for LSU men's basketball. Projected to finish 14th in the league, which I think that they like, but they feel like they're going to be a lot better. I feel like they're going to be a lot better. They went 500 in conference last year. Few of those guys are back this year. Those guys that started to play better towards the end of the year. They're back. They're more veteran. They got some transfer guys. They got a good recruiting class. We'll see what happens. Should be more of an exciting type of basketball season than it has been in the past. But they tip off today. And the last thing on our Heineken headlines starting lineup is LSU baseball has some scrimmages this weekend. So not only is it a big weekend for football, right? You have some scrimmages this weekend. LSU, they come off of 3 games in Biloxi against Samford last weekend. They win all 3 of those games. Now they come back here. They have 3 scrimmages, one on Friday at 3 p.m., one on Saturday at 11:30 p.m. So if you're out tailgating and you want to go pop in the box and you want to go see some baseball being played in between, bebopping around from tailgates, go ahead, pop in, watch them. They play 11:30 on Saturday. And Jay, big move, evil move by Jay. 12 p.m., noon, scrimmage on Sunday in Lafayette against UL after the LSU-Alabama night game. Hey, you there to do a job, go do a job. Got to go to UL, which means you're probably going to leave around 8, 9.
I think I would miss 9. That bus.
So, yeah, I don't think you'd be making
Good luck, boys.
Yeah, you're probably not going to be in a good spot. Man, my hamstring's tight, Coach. I can't play today. But
if you want to
go
crazy.
See
Everybody's sick this morning.
That's crazy.
Something's going around.
A little longer. Take one off the elbow.
Yeah, really battle. Just party quads. Line out, hit a couple hard balls. Line out, don't have to run. Okay, this looks good. Good swing. You don't need to do that. Maybe sneak a walk, get in there, all the good stuff.
You can tell that Jay has never had an alcoholic beverage just by this what he's doing.
Yeah, but Jay's pretty. You'd imagine he's pretty in tune. Like he pretty understands the.
He understands the football culture.
Yeah.
He likes football.
No doubt.
He knows what's going on.
He's always on the sidelines for the big games, but still,
it's tough. Tough for the guys, but they'll rally. They'll figure it out.
Still young.
That's what you're there for.
They can bounce back quick.
Figure it out.
They can bounce.
Sometimes
back.
you play better.
Sometimes you play better. Bounce back quick.
They ain't gonna be an open eye on that bus ride. Quick nap.
I wonder what they're gonna get for breakfast.
A beer.
Maybe some be great, solid move if they had Whataburger breakfast, honey butter chicken biscuit. Just everybody.
I feel like they do things a little more nutritious these days.
Yeah, you're getting a Planet Smoothie, brother.
And I don't know if you're getting that one anymore.
Egg white bites.
Yeah.
Starbucks. Tough. But anyway, if you want to go watch some baseball, they're going to be out there. If you want to tailgate, you can do both. It's a great day. As a baseball player, that was awesome to have a Saturday during night game, 11:30 scrimmage. You finish around 1:30. You go, you shower. All the boys get out there. Great times and great energy because you feel that energy. But LSU Alabama, obviously, that is what everybody wants to talk about, and there's a lot to talk about in that game. Obviously, LSU they open as home dogs, and which has always seemed recently bode well for LSU when that happens. They are 3-point dogs. Percentage came out, right, Jared?
Yeah.
Percentage came out. I guess ESPN's whatever analytics.
Yeah,
one of the analytics stats.
Yeah.
What was the number?
The number was 70% that Alabama has a chance to win this game, which
70.
I find to be.
That's a lot.
It just seems kind of high. I don't really know how else to say it. It seems kind of high.
What were some of the stats that you rattled off in the group text that I wasn't even aware of, that you talked about Brian Kelly at night games?
Oh,
13-0.
Brian Kelly at night games in Death Valley since he's been here, obviously. He's 13-0, and one of those 13 includes a win against Alabama here.
Yeah.
But somehow still, Alabama is
70% chance to win.
clip of win this
And they're-
probability to win this game.
So 13-0 in night games, 2-0 when he's in home underdog. All right, I believe he's only been a home underdog twice. Ole Miss this year and Alabama 2 years ago. Both games he's won. I could be wrong on that. Maybe he was a dog against Tennessee when they got their ass kicked.
Didn't win that one.
But they may not have been because they're actually flying high. They're actually
That's
pretty
coming
good.
off the Ole Miss win.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like they were probably dogs in that one. I could be wrong though.
Maybe.
Even if it's
But
a night
even
dog,
but
though.
even I don't know what the dog how far or how much of an underdog they were in 2022. Do you know?
They probably were an underdog, and I would imagine
They were against Bama, but I don't
Yeah.
know how much of an underdog they were. Like, was it 3 points? Was it 5 points? Was it 7 points? Can't imagine, Vegas making it more than 4 points, at home at LSU.
I would even think that year where LSU was also, like you said, still was probably kind of right where you are now. You feel better about this team than you did probably the 2022 team because you didn't really know what you had.
Yeah, and that was when you lost to A&M.
Yeah,
That was
that was everything was still right in front of
beat
you.
Bama and lost A&M. Yeah, that was
And beat Ole Miss, lost to Tennessee. It felt like a Brian Kelly special. This is what he did at Notre Dame. And so now you feel, I would say you feel better about this team despite being down.
I do.
Harold Perkins, despite being down Jacoby and Guillory, despite being down Garrett Dellinger. Like, you've been bitten by the injury bug here lately. But it does feel like you know a little bit more of what you have offensively, which is crazy to say because that was the year that everybody wanted Nussmeier to play in 2022.
Yeah.
Fast forward 2023.
Now they don't think he's good enough.
Yeah. Now they want him to run.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Yeah, no, it's I feel like LSU is in a lot better spot this year than they have been in those years, right? And especially 2 years ago. I think this weekend, LSU's coming off of probably their worst game of the year. Like,
yeah, no doubt. Well,
no
doubt.
worst half, really.
Most disappointing game of the year. I think a
quarter and a half, right? Like, not just because they lost, it was just how they lost, right? They were up by double digits.
They were dominating the game.
And then one thing happens, and then everything falls apart. Turnovers, short fields for A&M. Obviously the quarterback comes in, can't adjust, all these types of things. So you're coming off of your worst game of the year, right? A game that's you have uncharacteristic turnovers. You're doing these things that you hadn't done, and you've gotten better on as the season goes on. So then you go into this game, you have a bye week to kind of fix it, and you come back home against Alabama, your biggest rival. I firmly believe, and I'm not saying this, and I can say this and people don't believe me because obviously I am biased and I am a homer because I love LSU. But I'm not saying this, and I'm trying to say this in the most non-biased way. I really do believe that the offense is going to look a lot sharper. And I'm not saying they're going to do anything crazy, extraordinary, or change the whole offense. I just think that the passes are going to be a little bit crisper. They're going to be a little bit more on target, on time, in rhythm. I think they're going to try to do different things to keep that rhythm going and not say, oh, let's stretch the field vertically early. I think you still see it, but you're not going to see 52 balls being thrown in the air and 25 of them being thrown 20 yards down the field. That's what I think. I think we're going to have to see that. But there's some other factors in the game. Jared, what do you think, or what do you want to see, or what are some things that you believe that's going to put LSU over the edge, and what do you think that Alabama is going to cause the most issues with?
I think, like at this point in the year, you are pretty much who you are, right? So there's not going to be much change in the running game. There's some things we talked about obviously already that we would like to see a little bit different. I'm just wondering when it comes to what it is during the running game, like if you're not going to run it super effectively, if you're not going to put up 150 yards on the ground, which I just don't see that happening in this game, how much is it going to affect you in this game? Because I do think back, and I look back at the A&M game and the turnovers that happened at that point. 2 weeks out of it, you haven't really seen it happen. You've seen a huge step forward in him this year. I just can't imagine two games in a row, Nuss making those mistakes the way he did in that game and throwing the picks that he did in that game and doing that again. Like there was some he threw in some coverages. He forced some balls. He got kind of tricked in some situations where it was low-key kind of easy picks for the defense.
Right.
I don't foresee that happening 2 games in a row for him in that situation. So
Agreed.
even if he is pushing the ball down the field, even if it is not being run well, if they're not giving the ball away at that clip the way they did in that game, how much closer does this game stay? How much does the run game or the lack of run game affect kind of how this thing kind of ends in the end? And I do think those things are going to play huge in this game, and I'm wondering how that's going to play out.
Yeah. No, I think that's those are really good points, right? Because you just haven't really seen it much, right? You just don't know. It's a wild card, right? Like, what is it going to look like? How is it going to affect the game, rhythm?
It's one of those things where it's like when you don't run the ball as well as LSU has not run the ball this year, which is a wild thing to say here, and it's kind of crazy to think about here. It's an unsettling feeling going into the game when you're thinking about trying to have your offense settle in, get going, start moving the rock, starting asserting their dominance a little bit because you don't know how it's going to happen. So now you're figuring like, all right, what plays are we going to hit them, quote unquote, over the top with, or like what stuff do we have to do to kind of soften them up just to be able to put the ball on the ground?
Right.
It's a weird thing to kind of think about offensively going into this game.
And it's a tough thing for the coaches. It's tricky for the coaching staff because you're trying to game plan, right? You're the whole point of the game plan is say, hey, we're going to do these things to put us in a position to have the lead. For at the end of the game, we're going to try to bleed the clock out, run the clock out, and you want to have that last little bit finisher to end the game, right? When you don't have that running game or that reliable running game, well, now you are forcing the coaching staff to game plan the back end of the game with, hey, if this doesn't work, we're going to have to figure out another way to close the game out, which that's when the game, when you have a close game, that's when it gets a little tighter and it makes it a little bit harder. If you don't have a way to close it out, you don't have the closer, which is the running game, that makes it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it makes it super difficult in the end of the game. It doesn't matter if it's a 3-point lead or a 17-point lead. You get into the second half and you're not able to move the rock on the ground. You're not able to pick up first downs on the ground, and you're not continuing to keep drives going on the ground. It becomes really hard for you to continue to put the ball in the air, to continue to ask those guys to make contested catches, to continue to try to move it like that throughout the game, knowing that you can't do it on the ground. So it's one of those things where there's 2 closers, right? Being able to run the ball and or being able to rush the passer on the other side that good teams have. Are you going to be able to do that in this game, whatever one it is?
I'm glad you said that, right? Talk about rushing the passer, right? I think they can you pull those stats back up, Lloyd? Like the graphic on Alabama's offense?
Alabama's offense?
Yes, please. LSU's defense, if you look at top 50, getting close. It's the top 50th points per game.
I feel like we talked about that.
I think that's been mentioned a few times.
I think we've said it a couple times.
Alabama offensively, they don't have a ton of yardage. Like they're top 50 in total yards per game. In the red zone, not very good. Right, tied for 90th in red zone scoring. I thought they were going to talk about sacks, but they do not. Is there a slide that do talk about sacks? My point in saying this is LSU's defensive line has been one of their strong points or strong parts of the team. Right? So that's the offense defense. Okay, that's where the sacks were. But Alabama's offensive line has been a point of weakness for them or point of inconsistency for them. They have a center that transferred from Washington with Kalen DeBoer. I think he was
you really made him from Alabama there.
Huh?
DeBoer.
I
don't know if I trust that Kalen
DeBoer. The Kalen DeBoer.
Run the damn ball, DeBoer.
I'm pretty sure that center was the Remington Award winner last year. Or if not, he was a finalist for it. He transfers from Washington to Alabama. A little bit of an undersized center, but, leverage wins, right? Those low-manning wins, that type of stuff. Seems like he's kind of getting pushed around a little bit in the SEC. And the offensive line as a whole has been not up to par of what we're come to expect from Alabama. Yeah. And LSU's defensive line has been pretty dominant and has gotten after the quarterback and has been able to wreak havoc. And so I believe that's a matchup to watch. LSU's defensive line versus Alabama's offensive line. Who's going to be able to give in first?
For what LSU does good and what their offense does bad, I like LSU's opportunity and their chances in this game, because if you're able to relentlessly get after Milroe and start making him make decisions from the pocket, whether that be him trying to run or whether that be him trying to break down a defense and make throws, that's where they struggle at. And if you're able to kind of get in his head, speed up his process a little bit, I think that bodes well for LSU, because that's not where he wants to live and that's not what he does best. If you kind of take away that athleticism from him a little bit and kind of get in his face, that bodes well for LSU, and I like their chances if they're able to do those kind of things.
Lloyd, what do you want to see? What do you think?
I actually was going to put. Well, I was just doing a little bit of mental math over here on my calculator.
Mental math.
Mental math on the calculator.
On the calculator.
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
How many times do you think Nussmeier averages? How many throws do you think he averages a game?
35.
Jared?
I was going to say like 38.
41.
Wow. Yeah, that's too much.
That's 2 games where he's thrown. He has 2 games where he's thrown it over 50 times. Ole Miss, a game that you almost lost, but also won, and then the Texas A&M game where he went over 50 times. So that was going to be my question. If it's even around 40, does that make you feel better? Because I feel like the number would be like 35 to 38, and that means your run game's working.
The number for me would love it to be between 30 and 35.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I don't really think that's going to be a thing. I do.
But that's
think
not going to be a thing.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah.
Win, lose, or draw, I think it's going to be 40-40 plus. It's just, like we talked about, how those throws happening. Are we having to push them down the field 10 to 12 to 15 yards every time? Or can we start extending the run game horizontally, making these screen throws, making things easier for him, and picking up first downs that way?
Can he go 30 of 40, right? Like, can he go 28 of 40, right? Not 20 of 40. Can he go 30 of 42, right? 31 of 45. Something along those lines would look better than 50% completion percentage, and you are throwing you go 1 of 9 throwing the ball down the field, right? Like those throws, it's like the missed fastball. Doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything unless you throw it close enough to the receiver to catch it, or you throw it close enough to the strike zone for the batter to even think about swinging. That doesn't do anything. Throwing these deep balls, just throw these deep balls that you overthrow them by 4 yards. That doesn't do anything to the defense. Yeah. Because it's like, well, what do you like? Okay, if you're just gonna do that, then fine. You're not scaring us.
You're gonna live in 3rd and 8.
You're not completing it. So it's I guess it's not as much as not the amount of attempts that they're gonna have. It's the what the attempts are gonna be.
They are 6th in the country in passes per game, and 126 in the country in rushes per game.
Of course. Now, I would like to see them try.
That was going to be my bigger point.
I would like to see them look, you can't change the running game. You are who you are. There's other, things you can try to do to enhance the running game. But let's try it. You have to continue to. You can't just scrap it in the first quarter.
But that's like we talked about.
The second quarter.
We've talked about this a lot of times. It's what are those attempts? What are those tries?
Right.
Are they 1st and 10?
That's
shotgun handed to him right up the middle, and we just run right into the center's back? Is that the attempt? Because if that's what our try is going to be, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see us being able to just move that defensive line that way and just opening it up huge holes like that. So if that's the try, I don't care if we got 30 of them. Yeah. I don't really think it's going to be that successful against this defense. So how are you going to do it? What kind of creativity are you going to put into it? And that's what I'm looking to see.
Yeah, and that's – same thing about we're talking about the passing game, right? What are the quality? What are the passes? What are the run attempts, right? I want you to try to do it. I don't want you to give up, and I want you to continue to try to establish a run game, but you got to get creative in the run game, right? You can't just do the same thing over and over again. I think, look, they've had 2 weeks. I think that they know that they have the potential to run, right? They have a good offensive line. That's obviously one of the best pass protection offensive lines in the country. Running game, they're not great, but they're talented. So you would imagine they have the ability to do that. So that's what I want to see is how are they going to try to figure out how are they going to maximize the abilities of the offensive line and the running backs to at least have some resemblance of a running game.
I do think there's something that in this game, if you're able to set this tone really early, I do think something like how they play and how physical they play on the perimeter, from the receivers, from the tight ends going the block out here, from the swinging guards and tackles if they choose to do it that way. If you start playing really physical and you start slowing down and beating down their will to chase the ball and pursue the ball.
Yeah.
I do think that's going to weigh heavy towards the back end of the game, where if you can do that and you can do it successfully in this game, that may open up that run dimension in the second half of the game if you have a chance to kind of bring the game home that way.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm interested to see how they. Well, first thing, I think the bye week was obviously a great timing for LSU, and it wasn't a bye week that you had the last time where you came out of it with more injuries than not, because it felt like they wanted to practice a little bit harder, fix some things that they still think they needed to work on. That's when C.J. Daniels gets hurt, and you had a bunch of other people that didn't really feel like they got healthy. This bye week, I feel like Caden Durham's going to be as close to 100% since he started the year. Obviously, you don't have Dellinger, but you have the time to get Mubanga ready. And that's where my first question would be, offensively, how do you kind of try and protect Mubanga on the inside? Is there a way, do you use some sort of formation to be able to help him a little bit inside, or do you kind of line up and play the way that you have been? Because I think that they're going to put maybe a inline tight end like Mason Taylor closer to the line of scrimmage. You might not see as much Trey Green, but I think that would be the one way to help him a little bit, because you feel confident, I guess, in his pass. I feel more confident in Nussmeier's ability to navigate in the pocket around Paul Mubanga if he's going to be a liability than I do about them figuring out the run game around him.
Listen, chipping and or kind of bringing extra people in, like that is a thing a little bit, but I would imagine they're going to slide more protections this way, and they're not going to just leave him on an island as much. Good thing for him is name me who's he lining up against. Who do you feel that scared about that you feel like they're going to wreck the game being over him?
Yeah, they don't have that.
They don't have that this year. So it is a good situation to be in a sense for him, where he's not facing someone that is that feared, that is that level of player yet. I'm not saying they don't have good players. It's still Alabama. They still do what they do, right? But my point is I don't think this is a good welcome game for him in the sense of he got 2 weeks to practice. He's got a chance to kind of get in there, and I think he's going to fare better than what you think these days. But it's a worry, and I think it's something that they have maybe a backup plan for. But you're not going to go into the game thinking like, oh my God, we got no shot with him here, so we got to be able to help him every single time he's out there.
Right, you're putting him in there. He's the backup, or he's the guy that is assuming that role because he's the most capable.
And they didn't build this offensive line off of, hey, we just got 5, and if one of these guys go down, like we're shit out of luck. So I do think that they see capability in him, and now it's just kind of, it's a little early. It's just like everything up. It's the next man up.
How do you feel like the defense is going to play, right? Because we talked about that. Alabama's not a, hey, we're going to go and take you down the field type of offense. Now, they may run it, but in the passing game, like, they're not going to go there, and they're not going to have these receivers having 7, 9, 8, 10 catches a game, right? You're going to have Ryan Williams, who's going to take it up top off the defense. He's going to have a big play. Someone's going to miss a tackle, and he's going to go for 75 yards. But if you take that away, you force them to go the length of the field and not have these big plays. I think that they struggle, and then you give them more opportunities to get your defensive line to get to them. How do you think the defense is going to play against Bama? Like, what do you think the scheme is going to look like?
I mean, as far as for like what they're going to try to do, I think they want to make Jalen Milroe play from the pocket. I really do. They know that they're a big play offense. I think we had it up there earlier. They're one of the top 20 best teams in the country in terms of being able to hit 20-yard plays. So they know that that's what they do. But with that being said, I would imagine a lot of those is when Jalen Milroe has broken some sort of containment and been able to make moves and make plays and being able to hit Ryan Williams down the field. So look, I think they want to make him play from the pocket, but I think they want to be very physical and very just all over him in the sense of, I'm going to make you play from here, but I'm not going to let you sit here all day and do what you want. So I think being able to do that, being able to stop some of this run, and I don't think, for everyone that's so worried about it, I don't think you're going to see 100+ and 4 touchdowns that you saw last year in Tuscaloosa, and I don't think you're going to see 4 straight series of touchdowns like you saw last 2 weeks ago in A&M. Right? I think this defense is going to be up to the option read type of run. I'm not saying Jalen Milroe is not going to do his thing. He's going to do his thing. It's how much can you minimize it? How much can you kind of temper what he can do? Because if you let him take it over, he'll take it over and run you out of your own stadium.
And force him to go the length of the field.
Yeah.
Don't say, hey, here's, you're gonna go 80 yards in 4 plays and have all these big chunk plays and 2-minute drives. And LSU's done a good job up to this point of not having a lot of that, right? Every now and then they give a big play, but there hasn't been a lot of those busted coverages that they had last year. So if they can keep that and keep the guys in front of them as much as they can, force the wide receivers to play like a wide receiver and run routes and be underneath and then make tackles, I think that's the biggest thing. Can't miss tackles. This is a team full of guys who have force you to miss tackles. When you have an opportunity to make a tackle, don't miss it. Linebackers that are going to replace some of the other ones, I'm anxious to see how those young linebackers fare against this type of team.
Because that is what Alabama has done well. They have 51 plays over 20 yards, and that's
Right.
I feel like that's a lot of Ryan Williams.
Right.
And Jalen Milroe, whenever he is, either it's a designed run or he's scrambling, like it's usually for a big pop. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see the defensive strategy without a Harold Perkins, and that would be like the easiest fix.
Yeah.
Like going into the game, if you still have him, like, all right, you didn't spy him last year. Probably a good idea to spy him this year, or at least have some sort
Coach,
of
they
mush
spied
rush
him last year.
contained.
You just can't. But here's the thing: you got to remember this. We can't just go out and say just because Jalen Milroe is a quarterback that if they run 65 plays on offense, we spying them 65 plays.
Right.
You have to be able to mix it up on them. You have to be able to put them in third and predictable. Right. You have to be able to be in a situation where you're on attack, even though you're on defense. Okay. So like a lot of that stuff, if we're gonna spy them, if we're not, of course we're gonna damn spy them. But how much do you have to? How much are you gonna need to? And then when you do you get home? When you do you not let him do what he wants to do? Those are the differences. Like, it's going to happen. That's not even a question. I'm not worried about if you will or if you won't. You will. How much, though? When do you have to do it?
And look, you're going to have to make some big plays, right? And I'm not saying
you're going to have to tackle him a couple times in open field.
Yep.
You're going to have to do these type of things.
And that's when I say big play. I'm not even talking about I'm talking about that, right? I'm not saying turnovers are great, sacks, all that stuff is great, but the big plays are, hey, when it's you and this guy, you've got to be the guy to make the tackle.
Yeah, when you're in the phone booth with him, bring him down.
You got to bring him down. Or
the majority
hold
of
them
the
up
company
enough
doing
for
it.
someone to come get him. Because the reason they got beat 2 years ago or last year was because you couldn't do that. He was running around like he was a crazy man. You couldn't stop him. You couldn't do anything, and you didn't even attempt to stop him. So I think when you have the opportunity in the open field, you make the tackle. And then when you have an opportunity to make the big play, like the game changer, the turnovers, the interceptions, the batted balls up top, you got to end up coming down with a couple of those.
Yeah.
Right? Like the ones that, you saw it happen the first game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You had a bunch of balls on the ground, bunch of balls that fluttered in the air, and just kind of out the grasp of our arms.
I tell you what, this will be something that I think will play huge for LSU in this situation, just knowing what type of game this is, the implications behind it, and you being at home and them on the road. If LSU is able to find a way to get a turnover in plus territory early in the game and be able to cash it in, and you put them behind the 8-ball, I think something like that is going to play huge in how someone like Jalen Milroe tries to go out and play. Because I do think he has the propensity to, like, as time goes, he wants to be the Superman. That's what Nick Saban had to get him off of last year. Instead, Nick had to talk him into being the point guard as opposed to the shooting guard.
Yeah.
And I think knowing what this game is, what the situation is, it's easier for people to fall back into what's comfortable for them and what they've done and what they've always done, which he's always had to be that guy. So I do think if you're able to do something like that early this game, it is going to push him a little bit more and more to what he's used to doing, which that'll play right into your hands.
No doubt. And we talked about this, the intensity of the defense brings the intensity of the stadium. And you had it against Ole Miss in the first half, even though it wasn't at home. You've got to bring that, like the intensity defensively, right? It was on the road, so like you didn't feel it at home. But the defense for the whole first half was flying around. They were hitting the shit out of people. They were doing the things you wanted to do. In the second half, it went opposite. You have to be able to sustain that the entire game at home with the crowd behind you. So I'm pumped. I've just made myself really excited about the game.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions in there in the chat or no?
We have 3.
Okay, look. 3 is better than none. Let's ask Mikey and Mitch.
He's a company. What do you mean?
Yeah, we'll answer some questions, get into it. I'm sure there'll be more that pop in there as we go.
First one up, Kenny Balala, Ask Eminem, who do y'all think will have a breakout game against Bama? My early thought is Chris Hilton.
That would be nice. That's a hard one to, I guess that would be the definition of a breakout game. He hadn't played all year. It's the second game. Big one.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's a good one.
I'm going to go with, don't get me wrong, too. I know, 2-3 weeks ago, or 2 big games ago, if you will. I know he caught the winning touchdown in that game. I think this is a spot where Kyron Lacy, who's a guy is leading the team in targets, he needs to go off. I really do feel like if he can be that guy that moves the chains, that makes the plays, that continues to be a thorn on their side, that continues to show up, drive in and drive out, I think it's huge. And I think if he's able to do that, for himself, which I'm sure this is in his mind, in the back of his mind a little bit, this is a statement game. This is a statement opportunity for him. This is something for him to put on tape for them to be able to see in April. Yeah. So I think this is something that's huge for him in this situation. And obviously there is all of the implications that it is for this season and this team as well. I think if he's able to step up in this game, it's huge for him.
So I'm gonna stay on the receiver side. I'm gonna go with Aaron Anderson.
What's breakout for Aaron Anderson?
So, and that's the thing, right? Because the breakout's it makes the question a little bit different for me, right? And I think last week was a breakout for him. I think he had over 100 yards receiving. Obviously, he had the 75-yard. He had the first big play of his LSU career. Yeah, 75-yard touchdown. I think you're gonna look at him, and he's gonna be like when you need to make the tough play, right? 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, and he's starting to kind of have a little bit of that right now. I think he's going to have that. I think there's obviously added motivation for him coming from Alabama. You know, some of those guys that he was there with are still there, and he's going to want to go out there and make – he didn't get to play much last year. He wasn't a factor at all. Now he is.
2 years ago.
No, last year.
Oh, you talking about against – I thought you meant
against Alabama. Yeah. So he played against Alabama last year. He didn't really play. Yeah. So I think that I wouldn't be shocked to see him have a monster game. And, like, you know – well over 100 yards receiving. You know what I mean? Like a big play, not saying 75-yard touchdown, but make guys miss, 20, 30-yard chunk plays, that kind of stuff. What about you, Lloyd? You're trying to figure it out.
He's thinking.
I can see your eyes.
I think we all want to go to receiver because I thought the first one I thought of was C.J. Daniels. But I'll go to the other side of the ball because I think he has been a factor and he has been better. And I'm between either Sage Ryan or Major Burns. Because it's going to be one of the two that either Sage Ryan's going to be able to come up with a big play. I think there's going to be times they bracket Ryan Williams and he's going to be kind of like shading over the top. I think Zy Alexander's kind of has clearly been your best corner.
Wood's a big one too.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but I think he already has a breakout game.
Yeah, I think he's going.
I think 18 tackles you already broke out. I think you.
Yeah.
So I think if Major Burns can kind of contribute to that number and stay around the line of scrimmage, bottle up the run game, that is. Whether it be Jalen Milroe's assignment or just keeping him from being able to hand it off and Jalen Milroe's the distraction. He runs it probably 12 to 15 times a game, leads the team in carries. So it's going to be a factor. It could be Greg Penn. That's the one that's like keeping him in the middle. But somebody on that defensive front that will be around the football. I'll go Major Burns. It's a big game for him. He's from Baton Rouge. He understands that this is a little bit more.
Yep, love that. That's a good one. Next.
Ask M&M. Can you blow again? Thank you, sir. Who do y'all think gets the first run play? Surprise attack Nuss? Take it for 15 yards? I think that would actually.
I think he's on his bet slip right now while he's asking his question.
Let me give you
If Nuss pulls it the first play,
I'm gonna go Xavier Thomas.
Ah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Xavier Thomas. First running play.
Josh Williams.
Okay.
He's gonna get the rock first.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Josh Williams is going to play a good bit more than Kane Durham's been good in pass protection, but I think that's one of those games because of the Mubenga factor that you probably have Josh Williams stay in the backfield and be able to help you block on the inside.
Dude, this is an attitude game, and it's always been that. Like, I think when you in terms of playing against Alabama, especially for LSU, when you play them, you have to be able to take the mindset of not only like are we equals, but I'm better than you, I'm stronger than you, and I'm going to show you what's up. And so for you to do that means we're not trying to trick you by giving the ball out of the backfield to Xavier Thomas first. We're not trying to trick you. We're going to come right at you, and we're going to let you know we're here all damn day. So I think these type of games, when you win these type of games, or if you're planning on winning these type of games, you have to show up with an attitude, and you have to show up in the sense of there is no trickery to this. We just gonna come right at you. So I do think he's gonna get the ball first, and they're gonna try to set the tone that way.
I like that.
I do too, because he's the one that he's played this game before. He was the one that sprung Jaden Daniels on the touchdown in overtime. He had BTJ throwing somebody out the club on the other side. But whenever it comes to the
how great has he been this year?
Unbelievable.
Nobody talks much about him because he's in Jacksonville, but he's been good.
Yeah, I'm sure Trevor Lawrence talks about him all the time.
No doubt.
Like signing
Thank
him.
God we got this guy.
He's a captain now.
Yeah, he's
It's crazy though. Like rookie year, like yeah.
I feel like he's been sneaky.
Yeah, he's quiet.
Yeah,
do his own deal. Anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I already forgot what I was saying. Oh, attitude game. Josh Williams, like you talked about something about the block against Alabama. He also had the block against Florida, where you can see like this, like he takes pride in those assignments. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Josh Williams get a lot of run. But also, like I said, I think Caden Durham is finally going to be closer to healthy. I'd like to see them get him outside a little bit more and let him utilize that speed that he has because he's a track guy. And actually quite fast.
Yep.
Switching gears. Jake Roberts, Ask Him, early thoughts on baseball.
I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to have a good combo of young guys and old guys and talented. And I think they'll be very athletic. And from all accounts of the fall so far, they have a really deep bullpen or deep pitching staff. So
I think this team will be making another trip back to Omaha, man. I really do. As far as for how far it'll go, I think that's a better question for Avalanche, like the first couple weeks in the season to kind of see what it really looks like in game time. But they're stacked. The deep pitching staff, they got some actual really good players again that's coming into a situation, and they're not all young in that situation. So I think this team's good enough, and I do think they'll be back in Omaha this year. I do. I was actually sitting here. I wasn't even holding. I wasn't juggling it.
I've done that.
Also, very deep infield.
Yes.
Jay Johnson was saying it's a great problem to have, but we have 4 or 5 guys on the infield that could all play.
Yep.
It's just about me finding the right spot.
And I'm looking for them to run a little more this year. I think that's going to happen as well.
Yeah.
I think they're going to bring a little bit different element than what you've seen the last 2 or 3 years.
Goes to athleticism. Yeah, for sure.
Which they've had before. Just I think people forget too. Like they had such advanced and deep bats in that lineup that I do think a lot of the tone and the idea is let's not run ourselves out of innings.
Yeah, right.
As opposed to now, it's not that they don't have that kind of ability as well. It's just they're somewhat unknown at this point here.
Right.
And I think they're going to use that athleticism to their advantage right now.
Agreed.
We touched on this a little bit, but I did not see it when I asked it, so I'll ask it because he asked it. C-Dub225, Ask Him. I know you can ship with tight end running backs to help tackles, but what are the tricks to help inexperienced guards?
What are the tricks there? I mean, what do I look like, an old lineman? I don't
know. I'm posing the question.
You slide the line there.
Yeah,
like, I mean, that's what they'll do. But I once again, I don't think that that's something we put you on the field in that spot. That's why you get put in those spots, right? Because when you get put at the premier spots on the edges, right, and when you can't hold the water, that's when we need to really help you. We can kind of hide you a little bit on the inside. So like that's not. I'm not saying that they don't do it, but it's not something where they're not going to be double teaming a defensive tackle on pass blocks. Like it's just not really a thing. Like you're not going to be doing that all game. So I don't look for it to be something like that. The guy's going to be in the game not just because he has to, but they're using him there because they see this is someone who can actually shoulder the load, and I expect him to be doing that on Saturday.
Yeah.
All right, that's what we have.
All right, thank y'all. Appreciate the questions in the Ask Mikey and Mitch segment. Ask Mikey and Mitch brought to you by our friends at Mead Heavy Civil. Talked to them today, actually. Mead Heavy Civil specializes in land development, infrastructure projects across public works, residential, industrial, and commercial industries. From coastal restoration and large-scale excavations, I finally got it right, to solar farms and oil and gas pipelines, Mead is the powerhouse moving LSU forward with complete start-to-finish construction expertise. Visit meadheavycivil.com. or give Kiefer Sanders a call at 985-518-6774. Appreciate the questions. I'm glad we were able to get some of that in. You know, we have Fletcher coming on the 7 o'clock hour to talk all things New Orleans Saints. You know, obviously they're going through their own deal, right? Like, seems like they're in a situation that was a little bit worse off or getting worse than people anticipated.
Yeah.
You kind of felt it. You started to feel it once everybody thought it was just Michael Thomas. And yeah, that may have been a part of it. But then all of a sudden you start to feel it kind of come over and spill over into the media, social media, Twitter. People coming out there and criticizing everything. And at that point you feel like they kind of lost it. And then they got rid of the coach, right? Rid of Dennis Allen. And they bring in Darren Rizzi, and Darren Rizzi, the first thing he's done is said, all right, we're going to change the culture, bring it back. Right? COVID, everybody separated, right? When I heard this today, I was like, it's kind of weird. Darren Rizzi said he is moving everybody back into the locker, rearranging the locker room back to the position groups like it used to be, so everybody's a little bit closer to each other, and I was kind of confused as to why would that not be the case. And Lloyd, the insider, talking to Nick Underhill at LSU, at New Orleans Football, Nick Underhill said that it was because of COVID. They just never changed it back from COVID, which is still wild to me, right? Hey, this happened for a year.
Yeah,
we did it. We got to get you back to where we need to be, get everybody back comfortable. First thing Darren Rizzi did was bring them back. I think that goes into the culture. Feels like everybody's kind of buying into it because, we talk about them having an old team and that being a disadvantage, which, yes, it is. You got hurt. You're expensive. You're older. But with age comes wisdom, Lloyd. With age comes wisdom. And I think that veteran leadership that they have in the locker room has kept it as together as they can, right? So instead of it being fully off the rails, they've kind of kept it pretty tight. And that's why I would not be shocked if the Saints won this weekend. I just wouldn't. I think that's the move. What's the line? Do you know the line with the spread
3.
for that?
Saints plus 3.
I'll take them.
Already did. Take a money line.
I'll take a money line.
Yeah.
We talked about that. What's plus 3? Like, you're really gonna say, "Damn, I'm really happy that they won by or lost by 2"? Like, no, you want them to win. And you may think that.
No,
you don't think that for LSU. For the Saints, you're like,
but don't they say 3's like that's the one you need to sit on?
3, you would definitely take the points if it wasn't a. I just was thinking from my LSU perspective.
Yeah, from a fandom perspective.
Okay. Yeah, the Saints,
not actual betting perspective.
Okay,
fandom
perspective.
perspective.
That's the one, right?
That's the one. Because you can lose by a field goal and then push, and now you just owe the bookie a little juice.
2.5 is what you don't want.
Yeah, nobody wins except you can only lose. That's when you go money line.
Yeah. I'm taking money line. I like it.
I want to see the different energy this week, man. Like you said, they start changing things up in the locker room. They start changing some of the protocols and how they go about stuff every day. And it was very obvious. It became very apparent, I think, the last few weeks where it just seemed like that monkey was on their back with kind of everything that was going on, how they were playing, how the things would just snowball in their own direction, how it just never really looked like you had a lot of energy and a lot of just zest in the way they played.
Yeah.
Didn't see it. So I want to see what that's going to look like this week with the things. And it's a good one to happen because, like you said, when you play your biggest rival in this kind of situation, it's a good one for things to kind of change up with.
I do want to ask Fletcher what he feels like, what he's hearing in the coaching search. Obviously, you're not gonna know yet. You're not gonna name a head coach probably until the season's over with. But the rumor mill is spinning, and the odds-on favorite is Joe Brady to get the job. And our beautiful producer Lloyd,
yes,
he mentioned the name a couple of days ago.
Tossed a shot out there.
Tossed it out there, and it's they must have heard you.
Well, I think it's interesting just because he does have previous experience with the Saints, and while it be a low-level assistant, he is familiar with, I guess, Louisiana 2 times, and also being in the Saints building. So, and you know how Mickey Loomis operates, where he likes to kind of hire somebody that's been around the program before. So that's why my brain went to him first. But the next person that I think might even be a more likely option is Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. I know everybody wants Ben Johnson, but I go to the defense side of the ball because you just hired an offensive coordinator in Clint Kubiak that people, I would say, aren't off of yet. I feel like you're still kind of excited to see whatever those first 2 weeks were. You'd like for those to come back.
That's a shark one by you right there.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
I like it too.
He was kind of a hot name as well a little bit
No
last
doubt.
year. Didn't really get as loud, but he's also a former New Orleans Saint, knows the program a little bit, knows the city as well. Like you said, you have the young, hot offensive coordinator already, and you have him under contract, so being able to keep him there without conflicting minds on that side, and then now you go and get someone who's really doing it defensively from what they're doing as well, it would make a lot of sense.
So, Joe Brady's plus 300 odds to be the next head coach. Ben Johnson plus 400. Todd Monken
Monken's a great one too.
plus 600. Aaron Glenn plus 700. Those are the odds. And then Mike Vrabel's at 9. Darren Rizzi's at 1,000. You have Bobby Slowick, who's the offensive coordinator for the Texans. He's at plus 1,200. Belichick's in there at plus 1,400.
That's crazy for me to see Todd Monken. And I think he's one of the best coaches I've ever been around in my life. But I can remember a time where he left LSU because he wasn't getting offensive coordinator consideration.
Yeah.
And to see him now at this point of his career is
Crazy.
Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy.
Deion Sanders plus 3,300.
Oh yeah, and then,
Nick Saban plus 3,300.
oh my God,
Brian Kelly plus 10,000
Oh my god.
to be the next head coach.
Now they're
of the
just
New
throwing
Orleans
names
Saints.
out there.
Just throwing names.
had to finish
George
the
Hallis.
list. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's gonna be. I think the Aaron Glenn thing's a good call. It's gonna be interesting to see how they want to go. Are they gonna go defense heavy? They're gonna go offense heavy, right? Because you've seen it both ways around the league, right? Young offensive coordinators, McConnell, all these guys killing it, but then you bring in these young defensive coordinators like the guy from Arizona.
The more I think about it too, like I know it's super early in this process, but the more I think about it, like you almost have to go with a defensive-minded head coach in this situation, even though you just had one, even though it doesn't. And think about it, why? You got the young offensive coordinator who just came from a great offensive tree and showed you early on with healthy players what he can do. How do you see the chemistry and things like that working if you bring in someone to kind of oversee? I won't say oversee, but basically, his scheme and everything it no longer matters if you bring in the young offensive mind.
Right.
So that won't really work as well. Then now is that going to stay there? Now you got to kind of figure that out. So I almost think you pretty much have to go to defensive-minded coach at this point.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. What?
Might have more insight on this.
Is he in there?
There's one Fletcher Mackel.
Yep, and I'm glad he's here. Look, always prompt or always early.
I can't wait to see what he looks like this time. Like what we got going.
He's been busy. Got a lot going on over there in New Orleans. We appreciate him coming on as always. Friend of the show. We're friends of him, and he is our New Orleans Saints insider, obviously. 3-time sportscaster of the year. I think that's what it is on his profile.
3 times player of the week.
3
Yep.
times. Stack it up.
Fletcher, man, appreciate you coming back on the show. It's been a minute. Looking beautiful as always.
Thank you, Mikey, for having me. Jared, thank you, Lloyd, for having me. I appreciate it. I love coming on. Sorry I couldn't come on Monday. Literally, we did hours of coverage. I was staked out at the facility when the news broke. So we came on at like 9 a.m., stayed on till 11. Then we came on again at noon and stayed on till 2. Foster Morrow dropped an F-bomb live on our air as we were carrying it. But I love Foster, and he was very insightful. And then we did newscast at 4, 5, and 6. So I was a little bit inundated on Monday. I hope my signal's okay. Is my signal okay?
Strong. I like the shirt you're wearing. Strong.
You look good.
You know what this funny thing is, Jared? I got this shirt. So I went to the Olympics. This is like one of my favorite shirts. Somebody made the crazy decision to send me to like the professional experience of my lifetime, which was the Olympics in Paris. And my bag got lost. That was after that like IT crowd strike deal. So I literally got onto a plane by like BSing my way out of New Orleans to Atlanta and then to Paris. But it took my bag 5 days to get there. So there's a store called Monoprix, like Monoprix. I thought it was Monoprix because I'm not that smart. They told me it was Monoprix because we're in France. And it's the Target of France. So I literally went and bought like toiletries and some clothes, and I kind of lucked out into this shirt. So thank you, Jared.
There you go. Looks great.
High quality threads over there.
High quality.
That being said, Jared, I was in the waiting room, and I'm sure we can talk about this because I can talk ad nauseum, and I can talk about this topic forever and ever. I disagree with your take, Jared. I don't think it's a defensive guy, and I don't think Kubiak stays. And I could just go on and on and on.
No.
Well, I would have. I completely agree if it happens that way. Like,
please.
If Kubiak is gone, then I can see it being.
But please,
I just can't see it being the same too.
Yeah. So my thing is this: is that I'm not saying it can't be a defensive guy. I love Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn was here as an assistant coach for a long time. He was great in media. I think he's a presence. I think both of those coordinators in Detroit. As a matter of fact, I was talking to somebody today. I think Dennis Allen's going to be the next defensive coordinator in Detroit. He and Dan Campbell go back to Texas A&M together. They've got a long-standing friendship here. Dennis Allen's a really good defensive coordinator. I think Aaron Glenn's going to get a job either here or with the Jets or with another opening. I think Ben Johnson's going to get a job. I would not be surprised to see Dennis Allen is the Lions defensive coordinator and them not missing a beat, because I think DA, while not a great head coach, is a really good defensive coordinator. And look, I like Brian Flores. Brian Flores and Aaron Glenn both actually interviewed for this job in 2022 when Dennis Allen got it. They were some of the final interviews, Aaron Glenn, Brian Flores. I would be actually fine. Mike Vrabel is a defensive guy, and he's a huge presence, and I think he's probably going to be number one on their list. If you ask me in my gut, I think that's the kind of guy they want. Somebody been there, done that alpha, so to say. And so, but he's going to have a lot of suitors, but I think Vrabel's a defensive guy. And maybe they keep the young kind of hot shot, or maybe not hot shot, but the young up-and-coming offensive coordinator in Clint Kubiak. But the one thing I don't think successful organizations do is hire a new coach and say, and this is your coordinator, and this is your quarterback, and this is what you're going to have to do. That's how bad dysfunctional organizations operate. You know, when Sean Payton got here, they completely gutted the whole thing. 37 of 53 new players, entirely new coaching staff. You know, DeMeco Ryans got to Houston, entirely new coaching staff. He brought Bobby Slowick with him, who's a hot name from San Francisco. They both came from there. So again, everybody keeps talking about, because I keep hearing this, like, we've got Kubiak. Yeah, but not if the new head coach doesn't want Kubiak. If the new head coach is an offensive guy, Kubiak's out. And even if the new head coach is a defensive guy, if he has somebody else in mind, then I can't see the Saints organization, even though it's going to cost them a lot to get out of all these contracts, saddling a new coach with Derek Carr and Kubiak. And that's why they're just such uncharted territory right now, because I really think they were hoping to get through the 2025 season. It would be much cleaner to get out of some of these aging players and bad contracts after next season than after this season. Same with the assistant coaches and DA. But now it's a quagmire. It's a difficult spot to be in. It's one of only 32 jobs, and they're going to get a good assistant or former head coach. Make no mistake. But I can't wait to hear what the clear vision, so to say. Are they going to draft a young quarterback and start over? Do they have a coach that still believes, for whatever reason, in Derek Carr? Again, you know, so many questions and not many answers for an organization that has kind of fallen from grace very quickly.
Well, let me ask you this: does this make it a does the salary cap and the situation that they're in right now that you just explained, right? Older team, aging team, expensive team, kind of the cap being in the way it is.
I don't hear you anymore. I'm sorry, Mikey.
Oh, wait 1 second. Hold on. What happened? Let me know when you can hear us. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down.
I got it.
I don't hear you.
All right, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, now I got you.
There we go. There we go. We're back. No, what I was saying is you just mentioned all these reasons of why it's going to be difficult, right? Salary cap, older team, expensive team, and you know they're so far below the salary cap, so far above the cap that they're all. No, I get it. Cap is a moving number. It is fake. Apparently, it's something that the Saints have just kicked the can down the road, but at some point it's going to come back. Is that going to be less enticing to somebody to come to New Orleans? Like, you know, you saw Ben Johnson last year turn down jobs, right? Is this going to be a job that you know the top candidates aren't going to want to go to because of the situation they're in?
Well, let me say this. It depends on who we're talking about. So what I don't like is when people say they're not getting anybody good. That's just BS. That's not true.
Right.
Like, look, you just mentioned the Arizona Cardinals. Their head coach was the defensive coordinator of the NFC champion Eagles 2 years ago. So they got a coordinator from a Super Bowl team, but Sean Payton passed on them. DeMeco Ryans passed on them because Sean Payton had options and DeMeco Ryans had options. Like if Jerry Jones ends up firing Mike McCarthy, you know, maybe Dallas is a better job. If you want to go that route. Look, if somebody still believes in Aaron Rodgers, maybe they look at the Jets and say, boy, they've got some really good young talent on that team. Nobody's doubting that the Jets have talent. Somebody could go and say, hey, I think that's a better job. So what jobs are out there. Right now, there's only two. There's the Jets and the Saints. There's certainly going to be more. I certainly think that Mike McCarthy is a guy that could be out in Dallas. I mean, does Antonio Pierce keep his job with the Raiders, or is he a one and done there? So it's going to be interesting. But I think if you're Mike Vrabel and you've got like Sean Payton 2 years ago, he had multiple opportunities. He walked away from the Cardinals. Same with DeMeco Ryans, because they didn't want to be stuck with Kyler Murray coming off an injury, everything that was going into that. So again, is it the most attractive job? Is not, because they are in a bad cap situation, and you've got some questions about the aging personnel on the roster. But the pluses are, it's an owner who doesn't meddle, that has spent money to win. It's a general manager that isn't, kind of overbearing and in your face. And you do have some nice players. Look, Olave is a nice player. I hope he's okay with the concussions in his career. It can be extended, and this isn't something that's going to end his career. But, I still think Kamara has tread on his tires. I still think Rashid Shaheed's a good player. I still think there's some pieces. Eric McCoy's coming back on the O-line. Fuaga looks like he's a pretty good player. So, again, I don't think it's, nobody's going to want that job. Or, boy, that's a the Bermuda Triangle of jobs, stay away. But if it's for somebody like a Mike Vrabel that is going to have other opportunities, well, then he may pass on this one for a job that he feels is, more prestigious or a better chance to win.
I've always mentioned I've mentioned the defensive coach, or the situation of a coach that's had success somewhere before would be perfect for this situation. So the question I got for you, like we all know that the Saints have been pretty much on the podium every year as one of the best teams with the salary cap gymnastics, right? Like they've done that for a while now. They've kicked the can better than pretty much anyone else in the league. With this kind of a situation where the salary cap is, and we know that's going to come into effect in this situation, do you think it's going to take like a DeMeco Ryans type deal to be able to get one of these coaches and have that kind of security, knowing that this is the situation that you're in and we're going to give you this kind of an opportunity to get us out of it?
Yeah, and again, look, that's the one thing about the Saints, is they're almost loyal to a fault. I was surprised they did what they did on Monday, because they are really loyal to players, to executives, to coaches. So I don't think they're putting somebody on a short leash, so to say. I don't think they're giving somebody a 3-year deal and say, fix it right away. I mean, I think Dennis got a 5-year deal. I think his 5th year was a team option. But, I mean, he has one more full year left on his deal, and this was not their plan as of 2 weeks ago, I can tell you that. So I think whoever the coach is, they're going to say, we understand, like we may be drafting a quarterback in the top 5. We are not putting you on, turn this around right away, or else. We understand that, look, how they operated is fine. People make a big deal of it. It produced a lot of wins, multiple NFC championship game appearances, a Super Bowl championship. And when you're winning and you want to invest in that roster, this philosophy of, hey, pay them signing bonuses and push that money forward into future years, it makes perfect sense. And it's how they operated for more than a decade. Right. But when you lose, and you lose in the way they're losing, and now you've got, Cam Jordan played 10 snaps the other day. Yeah. He's got like a $24 million cap hit next year. Derek Carr's cap number is $50 million next year. So they've got some really difficult decisions, but Denver had some difficult decisions. Denver cut Russell Wilson. They cut Simmons. They are eating a ton of dead cap money right now, but they're playing a rookie quarterback. So again, you can offset it. The Saints could go all out right away and say, we are going to be in the worst cap situation for about a year, but we can fix it quickly. But that has to be, from ownership to management to coaches, you have to say, I understand we're drafting a quarterback and we are rebuilding and kind of flushing the past decade and a half, the last 15 years, to kind of cleanse our books, so to say. Again, the one thing the Saints got right is that the NFC South has been pretty trash. They knew this division didn't have the Kansas City Chiefs in it where they couldn't compete. This division, the last 3 or 4 years, they knew was wide open, and they felt like they had a team. And if you get in, look, Tampa won a playoff game last year and then went to Detroit and gave the Lions a pretty good game for a half. So I think the one thing they calculated right, their division is very winnable. They just couldn't put the pieces together. The it factor was missing since Sean Payton and Drew Brees left. But that's where I can't wait to hear, probably at the end of the season, because Mikie Loomis isn't going to talk about this now, is he staying as general manager? Is he moving into a kind of an advisory position, and he's going to hire somebody to start a new rebuild? Is it going to be a young coach and they plan on drafting a quarterback? What is the vision for this franchise? Because that's going to tell us a lot. I mean, look, if they hire Bill Belichick, he may say, I see a roster where I can win. I can win with Derek Carr. I can win with Alvin Kamara. I can win with Tyron and DeMario. I can do this. Well, then that certainly changes the overall philosophy of the organization. If it's Pete Carroll or Bill Belichick, and then you just keep restructuring guys and you hope that that voice that had won championships is enough to get you to a championship level. I think that's the way they shouldn't go. Look, I've covered this for 22 years here. The 15 of Drew Brees and 16 of Sean Payton. I think that they have tried to keep that era alive. And I love Aaron Glenn, but I would almost like to see some fresh ideas in the building. With all due respect to Aaron Glenn and Joe Brady, and Mark Brunell, who's the quarterback coach of the Lions, and a wild card candidate who could be Zach Strief. All of those guys I love, but I just feel like when Sean Payton got here, it was after Katrina, it was fresh ideas. It was, we've got to do it differently. We've got to think differently. We've got to operate differently. And it ushered in, the greatest era of Saints football. I am of the opinion that they have tried to keep the Sean Payton, Drew Brees era alive too long now. And it's time to just close the book on all that and bring in somebody maybe with some different perspective, be it a Brian Flores, be it a Mike Vrabel, or if it is a hotshot young assistant like Bobby Slowick, or I'm just trying to think of, or Ben Johnson, get somebody in there that isn't tied to what we were. I think they have become too much of a victim of nostalgia, so to say, that they're holding on to what they did, in the past, 15 years ago. I mean, you think of it, the NFC Championship game and the Nolan no call was 6 years ago now. So they're holding on to that, trying to recreate it, and they become victims of nostalgia where they have to take a chance, and that's hard because there's a lot of first-round bust quarterbacks, and there's a lot of young assistant coaches that flame out that don't make it, but that's where they have to trust their decision-making and go down that path.
And that's what I was going to ask you. You mentioned Mikie Loomis, and it feels like because of how Gail Benson had to come in and almost do the firing herself, and that seems like it would definitely be on the onus of the general manager. Gail flew in, talked to the players, and kind of went over Mikie Loomis's head to make the firing. Is that somebody you see staying around, or is it somebody that it would take a certain coach to be able to have a position in GM? Like if you bring in a Mike Vrabel, he wants to be the GM. If you bring in Bill Belichick, he wants to be the GM. Would that be the only way that Loomis and you rip the Band-Aid off of what you would call nostalgia?
Lloyd's not a huge Loomis fan.
No, I'm not.
Lloyd doesn't think that the owners make any decisions either.
She doesn't.
So I'll say
that one.
So this is what I tell everybody, and I am not like somebody to pre-check people, but again, I feel like I've worked here for 22 years. I have a solid understanding of what they are and who they are and how they operate. I'm not going to act like I know they're my best friends, but we are a friendly, cordial relationship. And again, I feel like I can mine the history of what I've seen. And I tell people this all the time. The people that want Loomis gone, trying to get Mikie Loomis completely banished from this organization or out of any type of serious role are the same people in Dallas who say that Jerry Jones has got to hire a GM and stop being the GM. It's just not going to happen. Like Jerry and Steven run the team and they own the team. Mikie and a guy named Dennis Lauscha are the two most senior members. They were Mr. Benson's senior people and they are Gail's senior people. Now Gail did make this decision, and I was told point blank that she understands the fan frustration. She understands that the players, the locker room, there were cracks and there was dissent there. Mikie is more slow and methodical, and I know his opinion was this isn't going to save the season. We may as well just wait We don't do knee jerk. We are always a classy organization. Let's just let Dennis have these 8 games, get to Black Monday, fire him then if we're going to fire him, and then start anew, because you can't interview assistant coaches right now. You're not going to start the coaching process right now. It just can't happen. So he wanted to take it slow and methodical, but this wasn't Gail telling Mikie, like, shut your mouth and leave the room. Like, I want to make very clear that they have a strong, cordial relationship. Was Mikie the dissenting voice for firing Dennis? Absolutely. But he was on board with it once the owner said, I want to do this. Again, so Mikie, the only way Mikie is leaving is if he retires and says, I want to get away. Could Mikie move into a senior role, a newly created senior position, and hire somebody else to run the day-to-day, to hire a player personnel staff, to hire a coach? Absolutely, positively he could, but he is never, until he wants to, going to be, pack your stuff and don't let the door hit you in the ass kind of thing. That is just never how they are going to treat him. He has been here 20 plus years. And again, he is one of their most, and people may disagree with that and say that's why they've fallen from grace. That's why they are where they are. I get it. I totally understand it. I'm just letting people know the odds of Mrs. Benson telling Mikie, I've had enough of you, it's time to go. Yeah. That is not a reality.
So here's a question I had, because we talked about this on the show the other day, and we're all kind of wondering this. And I would imagine a lot of fans who don't have insight, who don't know the configuration of the building, and like you said, how kind of things are run in that building. There was rumors of conversations, whether they were phone calls, emails, smoke signals, person to person, that were going on with Ms. Gale in the building with players trying to meet and trying to get their pulse of the place the week before or so, whatever. Were those things really going on? Was Dennis Allen's, is his office anywhere near this? Like, was there, like, how did those things go on in the building?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I mean, she is the owner. I mean, that's the one thing, and it's a good question, because there are people who I think, oh, she's at the Southern Belle, she's at the country club, or she's having lunch.
Lloyd.
Or she's Lloyd. But she's there.
In Kentucky.
Lloyd.
Right, but yeah, look, they do have a horse farm in Kentucky. But like I saw somebody say one time when they were like, she spends all her time in Kentucky. I can tell you right now, she doesn't. Like,
Lloyd.
she's at every Pelicans game, I see her there. Like, she is, but she's not. Like, that's just, the reality is am I going to try to make it out to be as if she's there every day at 7 a.m. and she's in her office, like, burning the midnight oil all night, like, drawing up plays or talking to coaches or going over the books? No, that is not the case. But here's the thing. She goes in every day. She does talk to, like, if you watch the Pelicans games, she's there greeting the players at every home game. She travels with them to some road games. She's at the office every day. Now, is she in the locker room, sitting in the lockers, talking to guys? No. But it is her franchise. It is her organization. And I forgot who, I saw that somewhere on Twitter where somebody put, I'm told she spends all her time at her horse farm in Kentucky. Let me correct people. They spend like no time there. Like, they have almost given up on the horse business because they came out so strong in 2016 with Mo Tom and Tom's Ready in GMB Racing. And then they realized that it was probably a little bit harder in the horse game than they thought. So they don't even really have any thoroughbreds anymore. Now, does she still have a place in Kentucky? Yes. Can she still vacation there? Sure. But people who want to make her out to be some absentee, checked out person, I feel like we live in a world now where everything, you've got to be winning a championship or tanking. You've got to be politically polarizing this way or polarizing this way. It's just, again, there's nothing wrong with, being moderate and not being quite as extreme as people think things are.
Right.
And so, yes. So I do think she met with people. It's her campus. And so, yes, she can talk to people and meet people and kind of get a feel for what's going on.
And I think that I respect her for doing that, because a lot of owners just say, okay, GM, do it. You take care of it. I trust your decision, and you go ahead and make it. Owners who are involved in that way, right? She understood what the culture was like in the last 15 years of New Orleans, and it was known universally through the NFL of being one of the better locker rooms in the league. It felt like over the last few years, those cracks started to become a little bit bigger. You started to hear some more stuff on Twitter from the locker room stuff. You started to see some drama happening outside of the facility that never used to happen. And if they didn't have that veteran team, which people give them shit about, but if they didn't have that veteran team, I think that would have fallen off a cliff as opposed to just a steady decline. I think that the veteran guys have kind of kept that more together. And then Darren Rizzi coming in there, and the first thing he says is, we're going to change the culture. We're going to change things up. We're going to move people closer together. It feels like that was a lot more evident that the culture wasn't the way it used to be now more than it has been the last few years.
Yeah, and again, I think that I always say this, and look, I covered this team pre-Katrina before Sean Payton got here. And look, you all played at the major league level. The talent is just, it's so close. And like, you all played in multiple organizations, so you probably see, boy, this organization versus that organization. Like, this isn't, I always tell people, this isn't college where Power 5 teams can go pay FCS teams like Southeastern and Nichols to show up knowing they're going to beat them.
Right.
In the world of like high stakes win now pro sports, every athlete is close, every organization is close, and the ones that are elite, they find those force multipliers for greatness, so to say, and they hang on to them. The Patriots had it with Brady and Belichick, maybe more Brady than Belichick, but definitely Brady and Belichick. The Saints had it. The Saints had it with Peyton and Breeze. That the Saints were never a bad organization. Let me say this: after Mike Ditka, like under Jim Haslett, the Saints were never bad. The Saints, until Katrina, which was an anomaly because they were practicing in a high school parking lot, playing 16 road games. I mean, Haslett went, his first year, he went 10-6. He then went 7-9, 9-7, 8-8, 8-8. They had Deuce McAllister. They had Joe Horn. They had Aaron Brooks. And we're all like, why can't they be good? Why can't they break through? But here's the thing. So they were never bad. Drew Brees and Sean Payton were force multipliers for greatness. They, be it by great evaluation or just dumb blind luck of Nick Saban passing on Drew Brees, they landed on a great coach and a great quarterback who made everybody in that organization better. And again, the culture since then has just eroded a little bit. Yeah. Not to say they have bad culture or bad people, but it's the little details. I mean, I think of it last year. Last year they went 9-8. And they blew a 17-point lead and missed a walk-off kick at Green Bay. And in Foster, who I love, dropped a touchdown pass last year against Jacksonville. That's 2 wins. That's 11-6, and they win the division instead of 9-7. But it's little things like that this team always made the play. They always found a way. And I think it was this culture of greatness or excellence that was expected from Drew Brees and Sean Payton is like these force multipliers, I keep saying that, of greatness that they don't have anymore. And whatever the it factor is that great coaches have, Dennis just didn't have it. I think Dennis is going to be very much like Steve Spagnuolo. Spagnuolo won a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator of the Giants back in 2007. Got a chance to be a head coach with the Rams, failed miserably. And then he worked his way back, and now he's been the defensive coordinator of the Chiefs, 3 more Super Bowl rings. That's why I say I could see Dennis in Detroit next year with Dan Campbell back to being a great defensive coordinator. But he just wasn't a great head coach. But it's not like their culture has become toxic, so to say. It just isn't quite as elite and on point as it was when Sean Payton and Drew Brees were in charge here. Things slip, the details aren't followed through on, and that cost you a play here, a game here, and at the end of the season, you're shaking your head going, man, how did we get here? Like, man, how did we get to this 7-game losing streak? We should have beat Philly. We could have beat Atlanta. If they were 4-0 and dealt with this, we'd still be talking about, boy, they weathered the injury storm and they're going to finish strong. But it's a play here, a play there. And, that's just kind of life in professional sports stuff. The ball hasn't bounced their way in the last few years, and that's why we are where we are right now.
Obviously Darren Rizzi's taken over as the interim coach. The interim coach, usually in the first game, they go out there and somehow win. Backup quarterback comes in, they win. Interim coach, first game, win. It's just a thing. They're playing the Falcons. They're 3-point dogs against the Falcons. What can we see moving forward with the Saints throughout the course of the year? Obviously, they're not going to go and win the rest of their games and make the playoffs and have this magical run. I mean, that would be great. You just can't expect that to happen. But what type of coach is Darren Rizzi? I know he's very well respected amongst the locker room and around the league. What can we expect to see from him or a team led by him?
Yeah, so look, I mentioned Flores and Aaron Glenn. Darren Rizzi actually interviewed for this job as well. They interviewed 2 in-house candidates. Now, I think the fix was always in for Dennis Allen, make no mistake. So I think it was all a charade. But Darren Rizzi, I mean, look, they call the new kickoff rule, it's nicknamed the Rizzi rule, because he's the one who pitched it to the competition committee and the owners. So what you see in the NFL is basically his rule. He is kind of a larger-than-life personality. I see why people love him. I mean, I've seen it because we've interviewed him for years, but now everybody's getting a taste of it. He's right outside of New York City, Bergen County in New Jersey. So he's kind of this, New York City, fast-talking, lots of passion, lots of energy, and I do think that is going to give them some juice. There's no doubt. And I think what has happened the last 7 weeks, I think realizing that a good man was fired, and deservingly so, but a good man was fired, I think that's also going to galvanize players and wake them up a little bit. And I agree with you. I think what Ogeron played his first game against Missouri and won, I think. It kind of gave the Tigers a little juice, I think. And so you're right, though. Whenever a change happens, people are kind of like excited and amped up. I don't think they can sustain that for 8 games. I think you're looking at like a 3-5 finish. Maybe 4-4 is a high watermark, because I certainly think there's still some bad teams, and the Saints are a bad team right now, on their schedule. Like Cleveland's coming in here, and I don't think Cleveland's very good. They've still got the Giants, they're pretty bad, and the Raiders are terrible. So to me, that's 3 games you should or could win, and then maybe they steal another one. But I don't think they're going to be. Certainly, you can't say they're going to beat Washington or Green Bay or Tampa again, and not Atlanta this week at 6-3 as division leaders. So it's hard to find. The Rams are playing so much better. So that's why I think a high water mark for them is probably like a 4-4, 3-5 finish. But after this week, I don't think they're going to win this week, but I think you're going to see a better brand of football. I don't think you're going to see them go out there and get like their ass kicked by the Falcons. And let me say this, if they do go out there and get their asses kicked against the Falcons, we may be talking about like a 1-7 finish, and we can really start evaluating like Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward and talking about what quarterback we like at 1 or 2.
Yep,
that was going to be my question. What if he does go on some sort of run and the Saints win 4 or 5 games? What do you do for the future? Because Rizzi's obviously using this as a de facto interview for him because he wants the head coaching job, I would imagine. If he rattles off a couple of wins and the Saints fall out of a top 5, top 10 pick, would that be good or bad for the Saints?
So that's a great question. That's what we're talking about. And that's one of the things, Lloyd, that I said I didn't think. Sunday night, we do a Sunday night sports show like a lot of local TV stations. And James Hurst, who was playing offensive line for this team, I joked with him. I think he picked a good time to retire after last year.
What did you know?
I jokingly, and he and I said, because look, I played on this team and I see the way they operate, and he and I both said that this is a low water mark in a quarter of a century, 7-game losing streak, losing to that awful Panthers team, but they historically don't do knee jerks, so we thought DA was going to get the rest of the season. And at this point, it wouldn't have been bad if, I don't like tanking. I know tanking happens more in the NBA, happens in Major League Baseball. Teams aren't all in to win it that season because they're developing young players or an eye on the future. That just doesn't happen in the NFL. But if they lose games, there's nothing wrong with, if you're rebuilding, getting a high pick and being able to maybe get your choice at quarterback or skill player or whatever you want to do. The conundrum they're going to be in is if Rizzi gives this team enough juice and they go 5-3.
Yeah.
5-3 only gets them to 7-10. So I mean, like that's not enough to even get them close to the playoffs. But if they go 5-3 and Kubiak refines kind of that offensive groove, like I think there's going to be a real discussion about maybe we should have hired Rizzi 3 years ago. Maybe Rizzi's the guy, and maybe we can keep this alive. I think that is crazy. And I like Darren Rizzi, but I just think that I mean, what has this team the last couple of years showed you that makes you in any way, shape, or form believe they're going to be competing with the Lions or the Niners or whoever you think the elite of the elite are in the NFC? I mean, Derek Carr's in year 11. He's not all of a sudden going to become, like Patrick Mahomes. And so, yeah, I mean, we can keep talking about, boy, the offensive coordinators he's played for, but at a certain point, his ceiling is what it is. So that's the thing that I worry about is if you do go 5-3 and you do get to 7-10 and you're picking 11 instead of 3, like, can you justify drafting the 4th best quarterback in what may not be a great quarterback draft? And so, can you justify giving Darren Rizzi the job when, he may be no better than DA over a 17-game season and you just don't know what you have? So that to me is the worst case scenario, Lord, you just said, is Darren Rizzi getting like 5-3 or 6-2 and fans loving his New York City attitude and everything that comes with it, and the players gassed up talking about how good they could be and how good he's going to be, and then next year going 7-10 and saying, "Boy, this is a disaster."
It would be. Look, I'm with you. I think that is the worst case scenario. I think that's something that we don't want to see. Saints haven't had a very high draft pick in a long time, which is good for them because they've been winning. It would be nice to see them at the top of the draft and see if they can draft the quarterback of the future. They've never had to do that. They thought about maybe doing it with Mahomes. I wish they would have done it with Mahomes. They didn't get him in time. But they may have an opportunity to do that. As always, man, we love having you on the show. But before you go, obviously we talked to all this coaches. Do you have someone in your head that you think is going to get the job or that you want to see get the job?
So, look, we all have opinions. That's the great thing about sports talk and sports TV and sports podcast and sports new media and everything like that. Everybody has an opinion. I certainly think they're going to look at Mike Vrabel. I know that they have a lot of respect for Mike Vrabel. I know that he's going to be an in-demand coach. And I think they will look at Mike Vrabel as Andy Reid. Andy Reid did a lot of winning in Philadelphia. He never broke through and won a Super Bowl. He gets an immediate chance in Kansas City. He wins with Alex Smith, and he finally gets Patrick Mahomes, and they are generational. I think they're going to look at Vrabel at 49 years old. He's a winner as a player, and that's something I think they're going to put an emphasis on. That DA had not won. Carr had not won. I think they're going to look for winners and guys that have won at the highest level. Vrabel's got 3 rings as a player. He went to an AFC championship game and was the coach of the year with Tennessee. I think they're going to chase him. That's my gut. And I think that's a good move. Like, I think he would be a good coach here and could turn them around pretty quickly, even if they draft a young quarterback. I certainly think all the names on the list, there's going to be a dozen or more of them that are, I could talk myself into like all of them, but I do like a younger guy. And believe it or not, he's a special teams coordinator. So it's not like somebody that is a guy that you look at and you say, boy, his offense or his defense. His name's Chris Horton. He's from New Orleans. He played at UCLA. He's the special teams coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. John Harbaugh was the special teams coordinator and became a head coach. That's an excellent organization. So he has been groomed in an excellent organization. He's a young former player who's from New Orleans. I would like to see him with a seasoned defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator and draft a young quarterback and just say, look, we've got a guy who understands our city, who's got ties to our city. The players are going to respect him because he's a former player and he's been groomed in a great organization, and we're going to get some senior coaches around him. So that's kind of a little bit of a wild card pick, but that's my guy right now.
I like that. That's why I asked you. I knew you were going to come up
with the beaten path.
I knew you were going to come up with somebody that nobody was expecting. I love that. We appreciate you, dude, as always, and it's been a minute, but you're always gracious with your time. So we appreciate you, and we'll have you on again. Go ahead.
Yeah, anytime. I love it. Anytime.
No, it sure looks good. Text Jared where you got it so he can maybe get himself on.
Oh, he's got to go across the border.
Yeah,
I got to go get the good threads across the border over there. City of Love.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, Monoprix.
Monoprix, not Monoprix. Monoprix.
Not Monoprix.
Not Monoprix. All right. Yeah. Appreciate you, dude. Have a good rest of the night.
All right.
As always, he's the man.
He's the best.
Good info always, too.
Good info.
Good info. makes it very clear to us. He understands our show, and we love when we get to talk to him. I'm tangled up back here.
Just a sidebar, too. We talked about that. Lloyd hated the thought of it, and it kind of was what DA fit under as well. But I said, man, you're really going to need one that's gone somewhere. Obviously, DA didn't completely fit under it.
Right.
But Vrabel does, just like Dan Quinn did.
Yeah.
Somebody that's been somewhere as a head coach that has succeeded as a head coach, that's been good as a head coach somewhere, and it's like, well, this is a great situation for me getting right back into it.
Yeah.
Vrabel would fit that
We'll
perfectly.
See. Chris Horton. Keep the name down. Write the name down. Remember it. I've never heard of it, but
Horton hears the Who Dat. Look at that.
Huh?
You've never read a Dr. Seuss book?
Oh, yeah, but I didn't.
Oh, Horton hears the Who Dat.
There you go.
That's the next put it on the Thomas Picayune. That was free.
You like that?
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, Chris
just send it to him. Say, hey, when this happens.
There you go.
New Orleans native, 39 years old.
Yeah.
Could be one to build with.
Deal as hell.
There you go. We'll see what happens. I don't mind the Vrabel thing. It's going to be, names are going to pop up and come in and come out and do different things. I just want to see, it'll narrow it down to probably about 4 or 5 names that people are really talking about as the season gets over. All right. Let's get to our seggies. Do you have any for us?
Yes.
Mistake of the
As
day
always.
Mistake of the day brought to you by our friends at Dozy Place.
And speaking of meat, a lot has gone on as we've seen people that are now serving in a war.
Hey.
And
Okay, well, you have to so North Korea, communist country.
Mm-hmm.
They're in cahoots with Russia, another communist country, and Russia is fighting Ukraine. Russia needs more troops.
They need more troops.
They need
so
more
they
help.
rang the bell for North Korea.
For North Korea, who, we'll help you. We'll give you some troops. Well, North Korea, communist country, doesn't have a lot of access to the internet. Don't have a lot of access to things that we have access to over here. And North Korean troops don't get to leave there often and finally get to leave. Wherever.
They finally get, and so what they do get is unfettered internet. And a usually reliable source tells me that the North Korean soldiers who have deployed to Russia have never had unfettered access to the internet before. As a result, gorging on pornography.
Gorging on pornography. Gorging, what a word.
I couldn't imagine how that conversation went for the first time. Be like, this is the website you need. Like, oh my God.
Oh, wow.
It's not censored?
Wow.
Everything you want? Yeah. I don't think they're doing this.
Isn't that crazy though? Like, not even just that, but like they probably haven't seen so much shit around the world.
Like DoorDash.
Well, I don't know what that is.
That's what I'm saying. Or a grocery store.
That's wild.
And so, but
Kim Jong-un shot an 18 on the golf course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You telling me didn't.
Yeah, right.
But they don't want any of those luxuries. Porn, first thing.
Crazy.
And now they can't get off of it.
Wild. Quick addiction there.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like the first time you get on the family computer. This might be trouble.
A lot of pop-ups.
Yeah. Ooh, what's that?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Studying.
Yeah. That's a good one. Good mistake of the day.
That's just so. Of course.
Just wow. Yeah.
Happy for them.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Good for them.
I don't know how much they're helping in the war.
No doubt. Curtain call brought to you by our friends at Perkins McKenzie. Almost a different route there.
I know where you're going.
What we got, Lloyd? You got a curtain call?
I do. Curtain call to all LSU receivers and what happens in football as Jamar Chase really put one out there for LSU academics.
Yeah.
After being asked about what it's like to play football after playing on TNF where it feels like you have to cram for a test, Jamar Chase responds, I didn't study.
I'm just that smart, you know what I mean? Or just had the answers.
No, he's not smart. Come on, guys.
He could be that smart and have the answers.
He had the answer because he was that smart.
There you go. That's a good point.
Come on now.
I'm not saying he's not smart. I'm just saying if I was able to get someone just handing me the answers, I would use them.
He technically studied those while he was putting them on the paper.
And then he knew the answers.
Yeah.
Retained them.
Genius.
I'd like to be like it.
No doubt. Oh, you got a curtain call?
That I do not.
You not? My curtain call is to the weekend that is to be with College Game Day. I actually am very excited to have McAfee and the Game Day crew at LSU for the weekend. I'm very excited to see Saban back at LSU in a whole different light, right? He's not on the opposite sideline. He's not coaching for LSU. He obviously has an affinity for LSU and Alabama, and it's going to be interesting to watch the dynamic and to see the energy that is brought to game day. I think McAfee and Saban additions to game day have been as good as they could have expected. And so it's going to be fun to watch them this weekend. So that is my curtain call.
It'll be fun to watch it.
Yeah.
Y'all going?
I will not be
been
at
to
game
game
day.
day?
I will not be at game day.
Have you ever been to one?
No.
It's interesting.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a lot of rules.
How so?
Maybe it's loosened up since McAfee. I went in 2007, I believe.
I've never been to a game day.
But it was like no drinks inside the
Oh,
they call it,
really?
in the pit. Like you can't really tailgate.
Can't drink.
Yeah, so that's really the only issue. But other than that, I just want a good crowd because I've seen the way that McAfee
I think it will be a
interacted.
good crowd.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
And
of
the weather's starting to go away now, which
Yeah.
is nice. So
Yeah. If the weather goes away, it should be a
Yeah.
really good weekend.
no doubt.
I wonder what chance he decides to pull out for LSU.
I know.
I know there's one that he probably wants to do.
I know which one he wants to.
Yeah.
I don't know if he will.
I know which one he's probably going to hear regardless.
I
No
feel like
doubt.
he's still going to bring it up at some point.
I do too.
There's
Yeah.
no way he doesn't.
I wonder where he's going to do his show on Friday.
LSU should roll out, like, this is where we kind of shine in this regard, where you can get, like, some access to what LSU is. Let all the boys come down.
Yeah.
Let them experience the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's what I would
gonna be
like
fun.
to see.
All right. That's all we
If
got.
that was happening, it would be.
Yeah.
No, it's him.
Yeah.
Do
It's
the
going
right-
to
do
be. It's
the
going to
right
be fun.
thing. Or I guess it'll be on. It depends on the weather. It really does.
Friday will be
Sometimes they,
some.
like,
Friday
put
will
him
be
on the
somewhere.
field.
We'll see what happens on Friday, and then I wonder where he's going to go eat dinner. We'll see. I mean, that's what they do, right?
Yeah.
They just bebop around. They try to figure out, kind of get the culture of it.
He'll probably be with Saban. I would imagine this big Geno's night.
Ooh. I mean, maybe I'll pop into Gino's.
Yeah,
see
slide
what
on
happens.
in.
Yeah.
See Bo Pelini, Nick Saban, bring the band back
Yeah.
together.
Maybe go to Phil's.
Yeah.
To back room.
room.
No doubt. All right. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can't watch us. If you like listening to us, wherever you get your pods. We'll be back live in studio on Friday from 1 to 2-ish.
Oh, it's going to be a show.
Yeah, a lot of gambling. A lot of gambling conversations. Get back on the winning ways. We're working hard. We're studying it. We've already started talking about it. We are going to have a good parlay for you on Friday. So tune in. Bryce Kuhn will be on the show as well, unless he has to have baby duty, and he cannot. But he has told me today that he will be on the show. We'll talk gambling with him, talk LSU, and all things other sports.
Chris Hilton listed as questionable.
I'm not surprised.
No.
That didn't surprise me.
Nope.
Respectfully.
We'll talk about it on Friday.
Yeah.
Hey, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We love y'all. Peace.